Welcome to Season 3 of Adventures in Compliance. In this season, we are reviewing all of the Sherlock Holmes stories which are collected in the work The Return of Sherlock Holmes. It is a collection of 13 detective stories written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, marking the reappearance of the brilliant detective Sherlock Holmes after his apparent death in The Final Problem, which ended Season 2 and was the last story in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The collection spans various intriguing cases and mysteries that Holmes and his loyal friend Dr. Watson tackle. First, a word from this month's sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting case closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, 2023, The Year in Compliance. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
Today we take up the fourth story in The Return of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist. Although Conan Doyle thought this one of his lesser efforts, I've always enjoyed it, and I hope you will as well on this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, you've enjoyed this series, or you just like stories about Sherlock Holmes, I hope you will subscribe or rate and review to this podcast, wherever great podcasts are listened to. Interestingly, there appears to be a good reason why one Mr. Carruthers, claiming to represent a recently deceased uncle in South Africa, should have hired Miss Violet Smith as a music teacher for his daughter, at around double the usual rate for such a position. His business partner, Mr. Woodley, was after her body. Woodley has now disappeared from the scene, apparently taking Violet's most recent rebuff to heart. She is, after all, already engaged to be married to an engineer named Cyril. Later, she will turn down Carruthers' proposal of marriage for the same noble reason. But now a new suitor appears to have emerged, a bizarrely bearded and sunglassed stranger who follows her on his bicycle whenever she rides out to visit her mother. Watson travels down to Surrey to investigate, but returns with only news that the mysterious cyclist comes and goes on from a nearby house. Holmes harumphs, then makes the journey himself, where he falls into a fight with Woodley, who apparently has returned to the village, but he too uncovers no new pertinent information. Back in London, he is greeted with a letter from Violet complaining that not only has Mr. Carruthers refused to take a no to his offer of marriage, but Woodley is bothering her again as well. She announced she is terminating her employment and leaving immediately. Suddenly seized by fear for the girl, Holmes and Watson return to Surrey to make sure she catches the train safely. They arrive to discover she has gone missing. Setting out in search of her, they encounter the mysterious cyclist who, having first pulled a gun on them, then turns out to be similarly concerned for Violet's welfare. The three team up in search, and the cyclist tells them of Woodley and a former clergyman named Williamson who arrived. They all come back to the hall to find the two men conducting a wedding ceremony, a struggling and protesting Violet being forcibly wed to Woodley while Williamson officiates. At this point, the mysterious cyclist reveals himself as Mr. Carruthers and shoots Woodley. He then explains the mysterious deceased uncle in South Africa has died intestate, meaning his fortune would immediately and automatically settle on his next of kin, Violet. Carruthers and Woodley resolved to snare Violet into marriage, and having lured the disgraced clergyman into the plot, proceed as planned. But things go awry. Woodley would not conceal a natural brutish character, and Carruthers generally fell in love with her going forward. Since that time, he has been protecting her from Woodley's further affairs and attentions. While he didn't tell her what he was up to, he offered to walk her to the station to protect her going forward. Either way, his machinations appear to have been for naught. Had he been married to Woodley with his own eyes, the girl's future was sealed, or was it not? Of course it was not. As anyone knows, being married against your will doesn't even work, even if the priest is defrocked. Carruthers would receive a light sentence for his part in the plot. Woodley and Williamson suffer more grievously. It's a satisfactory outcome, but as I noted, many don't think it's a particularly good story. I thought this short story would be an excellent way to look at some investigative strategies, tactics, and techniques from Sherlock Holmes and maybe apply them to the compliance professional. There are numerous investigative lessons that can be drawn for the story, whether you think it is a particularly good one or not, starting with number 1, observation is key. Here, Sherlock Holmes emphasizes the importance of keen observation. He notices small details about the cyclist's appearance and behavior, the brand of the bicycle, and the peculiarities of the cyclist's clothing. This teaches the compliance professional to pay attention to even the most seemingly insignificant detail, as they can often provide valuable clues, literally across the globe. Number 2, something we have talked about a fair number of times in this podcast series, that context matters. Understanding the context surrounding a case is crucial, and for every investigation. In this story, Sherlock Holmes investigates not only the actions of the solitary cyclist, but also the background and relationships of the young woman he is following and protecting. By understanding the context of the situation, Holmes is able to more thoroughly unravel the mystery and do it more effectively. Number 3, and this is as important a skill as I can think of for a compliance professional, open-mindedness. Sherlock Holmes approaches each case with an open mind, considering various possibilities and not jumping to conclusions prematurely. This teaches the compliance professional the importance of remaining open-minded during investigations and not letting preconceived notions cloud your judgment going forward. Number 4, use of disguise and subterfuge. Here, Holmes employs a disguise and subterfuge to gather information and insight into the case. This demonstrates the value of adopting different personas and strategies to uncover the truth, even if it means stepping outside one's comfort zone. However, for the modern compliance professional, you might consider data-driven compliance and how you can utilize data in your compliance program for investigative reasons as well. Of course, any insight you can garner back from your reporter, if you have a hotline or other information that's come in, can be useful as well. Number 5, collaboration. Obviously, Holmes collaborates with others such as Dr. Watson or local police, and this is absolutely critical for every compliance professional. The importance of teamwork and pooling resources and expertise to achieve a common goal is critical for every compliance professional, and the work that you do as a compliance professional will be informed by the expertise of others within your organization, whether it be a CISO, whether it be a CTO, whether it be internal audit, whether it be HR, whether it be fraud investigators. They will be most helpful for you going forward. Attention to psychology. How often as a compliance professional do you think about psychology? You may think about it in terms of KPIs, but Sherlock Holmes pays attention to not only physical evidence, but also psychological motivations of the characters involved. As a compliance professional, understanding human nature and behavior is often crucial in resolving cases and performing investigations for your organization. Persistence. Holmes demonstrates an unwavering persistence in pursuing the truth, even where faced with obstacles or dead ends. Obviously, as a compliance professional, you're going to face a lot of potential dead ends, and perseverance and determination is going to be crucial and critical for you going forward. Once again, while many think this is not as strong a story as others, I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you do. Compliance Podcast Network is sponsored this month by Ethico. Ethico is a leader for compliance champions like yourself with its ethics and compliance optimization system built to turn goals and guidelines into real ROI for your program. For more information and a special white paper, go to ethico.com/CPN. I hope you will join me through this entire series of short stories from the Return of Sherlock Holmes. If you're a Holmes fan or you enjoy analogizing to compliance, leadership, and ethics, this is the podcast series for you. I hope you will take the opportunity to reread one or perhaps all of the short stories. They're short reads and a lot of fun. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into each one of them, looking at leadership lessons, ethical lessons, and or compliance lessons from each one. If you're a Sherlock Holmes aficionado like myself, I'd love to visit with you about some of your favorite stories and perhaps record a podcast or two with you on them. So please contact me. You can reach me through the website of the Compliance Podcast Network. Adventures in Compliance is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. And as I mentioned, we are sponsored this month by Ethico. So I hope you will check out the Ethico white paper that's available through their special link on that we put in the show notes that I mentioned earlier. This is Tom Fox. I'm greatly looking forward to the return of Sherlock Holmes. Join me again next week for the adventure of the Solitary Cyclist.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.